Please welcome Snowflake's Director of Developer Growth Marketing, Anna Filippova.
Hello, builders. Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are. And what an awesome start to the day it is with that keynote, right? My name is Anna, and I'm here to take you through what's new in Snowsight. Now, you may know Snowsight as simply just logging into Snowflake. But if you've been building with Snowflake for a while, you might remember the classic UI. Snowsight is the next evolution of Snowflake's UI, and we think it's the best place for you to do data. Joining me today is Gupta. He's the VP of Engineering for Product Experiences. And that's the group that brings you some of your favorite UI gems like Streamlit, worksheets, notebooks, workspaces, and a lot more that we'll see today. Hey, Vic, it's really great to see you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Anna, great to be here. And hi to all the builders that are out there. We are really excited to show you some of the cool stuff that we've been cooking up for the last several months. I'm looking forward to jumping in.
Same here. Awesome to have you with us.
Thank you.
So today's session is going to be just a little different. We're going to be talking a lot about Snowflake's UI, so we're going to skip the slides and diagrams, and we're going to take you straight into the product to show you what's new. Also, we're going to share a link at the end of the session to all the code demos, prompts, and links that we're going to talk about today. And because we have a senior engineering leader like Vic here with us, we're going to give you builders a chance to look under the hood of some recent platform improvements as well. So why don't we start there, Vic? I know your team has been hard at work this past year making Snowsight faster, easier to use, and easier to build on. What are you most proud of?
Oh, thanks for the question, Anna. It's been a great year, and I'm so proud of the progress that the team has made. To start with, we have been reimagining Snowsight from the ground up in terms of our core infrastructure. We set out to make things faster, more flexible, and unlock the potential of AI with a new internal platform and API server. We've also redesigned the developer experience in Snowsight from the top down. In a little while, you'll see workspaces where we fundamentally rethought how users interact with Snowsight, specifically the file metaphor. In addition, we've rebuilt our UI experience with our new Snowflake design system called Stellar. Stellar makes the user experience faster, more consistent, and more beautiful. Let me give you an example.
Sure.
With Stellar, we have a brand new table. As you builders know, a lot of the Snowsight UI is built from data-rich tables. The Stellar version of the table is smoother, it scrolls better, it's faster, and it's easier to use.
Vic, that's so inspiring, and I can't wait to dig into the details. But before we go there, there's one more fun fact about you that I think all of you builders out there should know. And that is, you have been a customer of Snowflake for several times in your career. In fact, when I asked you to do this session with me, the first thing we said we wanted to do was to show builders the new cost management interface. Why is this meaningful to you?
That's right, Anna. I have been building on Snowflake at 2 companies over the last 4 years. One of those companies was my previous employer, Warner Music Group, where I got to spend 2 years in the music business.
That's cool.
No, I did not get to go on stage at the Grammys, but I did get to run a 15 petabyte Snowflake instance. We had hundreds of analysts around the world that were using Snowsight to answer what-if questions. For example, let's suppose a song was streaming all around the world. Did it perform better on the East Coast of the US or on the West Coast? Did it perform better when targeting rock music playlists on Spotify or dance music playlists on Apple Music? The challenge our analysts face is that some of those queries can get really complex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it makes sense because Snowflake makes it so easy to do complex analysis since it scales so well, and you don't really need ETL to back it up.
Exactly. And those complex queries, while powerful, they can get expensive. Mm-hmm. So we needed to make sure that we were running our queries efficiently, getting insights fast, and it was always a hard monitoring challenge. So now, one thing I'm really excited about, being on this side of it all, is the new cost management experience. It is so cool. The new cost management interface makes it really easy for someone like the old me to look at where we are efficient with our queries and where there's some work to be done to optimize them. Something I appreciate in particular is the ability to now set tag-based budgets. This feature is available in public preview. Tag-based budgets allow any Snowflake customer to take the budget that is spread across the entire company and allocate it into a set of specific tags. So going back to our example, let's say the department that works on music in the UK, they get their own budget, and the department that works on music for the US, they get a separate budget. This helps ensure teams are spending money efficiently and that admins can clearly see how money is being spent.
Shall we show folks how it works?
Let's do it.
So I've got our cost management interface that I'm pulling up, and of course it's in the admin section of the Snowsight. And as soon as I do, you can already see that I've got a bunch of useful information here, my spend, and also some really cool recommendations for cost improvements that I can make. In my case, it looks like I've got some gaps between successive queries. Let's go to the Budgets tab. As soon as I land there, you can see some of the tags that we've set up. And of course, this 1000% budget overrun is here as an example. But immediately when I click into it, I can see that I've got a few different cost centers. And it looks like finance is the one that's responsible for some of the budget overruns. Not only that, I can see the specific services that are responsible for those different budget increases. And I can really drill deep into what service and go all the way from a very high level from metrics around my budget to very specific things that allow me to identify the problem. And that's super cool.
Anna, that's awesome. Thank you for showing that. But you know what? There's even more.
Ooh, how exciting.
Earlier today, we announced Cortex Code in private preview, an AI-powered companion integrated directly into Snowsight. Cortex Code is not only your data co-pilot, it can be your admin assistant too, helping you streamline routine tasks like cost management and governance that previously required writing a ton of complex SQL. Anna, can we take it for a spin?
Absolutely. Let's do it. So I'm going back into my cost management section here, and I'm pulling up Cortex Code. So let's actually ask it to create a tag group for me with values for different business units. Right away, I can see that the agent is thinking and planning its next steps. It's figured out this is a governance operation. It's figured out that it can execute some of these commands, but also that I didn't give it enough context. I didn't give it the database and schema that it needs. So I'm going to do that next. Let's type that in here. Notice that I'm not giving it any context other than just these two objects, and it's figuring out which is the warehouse and which is the schema. And that's it. Again, I can see how it's thinking. It's generated the query for me, and I can preview it and make sure that it looks good before running it. In this case, great. And ta-da, I've created my tag-based budget. So Vic, this is really cool. And one thing I'm really learning to love about Snowsight is the fact that I can really choose the altitude at which I want to develop without leaving my browser. So as you saw earlier, I can choose to start with AI. I can kind of get my bearings on a particular problem, especially if I'm not sure how to set something up. Like, I don't know that I need a database and schema for my tag-based budget, right? But I can also choose to go really deep with code right away. And in fact, code-based workflows are an area that I know has seen a lot of work recently, especially with workspaces becoming generally available.
Yeah, that's right, Anna. It is going to be so cool for anyone who uses workspaces to work in all the different ways that you just described. For me, particularly, when I start from scratch with a problem, I love by asking a question of Cortex Code just like you did, and then after it generates the code, I like to dive deep and figure out what I need to tweak.
Totally. So Vic, earlier you said that workspaces is really rethinking how users interact with the core file metaphor in Snowflake. What does that mean?
Anna, traditionally, Snowflake had a pretty soft notion for all of the scripts that builders interact with. You would compose these scripts in Snowsight and then run them. But there wasn't a file backing the script that you could edit or interact with like we're all used to in other IDEs. Mm-hmm. Now there is. Every file in your workspace is now mapped directly to a file in your Git instance. So now you get to treat those files exactly like you would files in a Git repo. It's easier to talk about it, but it is hard to get that experience just right. Making the mapping just work makes workspaces feel so much more native to someone like any of us who is used to a well-known IDE such as VS Code.
I'm personally really excited for this. It's going to be a huge milestone for our users, and let's see what this actually looks like.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to fire up a workspace. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a public repository from Snowflake Labs, and I'm just going to drop it into my workspace right here. Grab my folder. And voila, look at how fast that was. Immediately, I can see that I've got Markdown rendering, and it previews my Markdown very nicely. I also have really nice YAML file rendering, and that's going to be really important for me when I work with DBT projects, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And then finally, of course, SQL files, really beautifully laid out. Look at how snappy all of this is. And on top of that, I can also format my SQL automatically, which is really nice. I've been using this a lot. And you'll also notice that there's the share button here that we talked about in the keynote. And of course, sharing is also now available in private preview and workspaces, which is really exciting. So Vic, when building this kind of interface, who did you imagine would benefit the most from this experience?
Anna, that's a great question. We think really carefully about all the different types of users who come to Snowsight every day. But I would say we started with data engineers. We wanted to make it really easy for data engineers to leverage our big launch from Summit in June, DBT projects on Snowflake, which I think we're going to show in a few minutes as well.
Absolutely.
Of course, Workspaces has already grown to be more than that. We've made it so that any data developer, any data analyst, any app developer, you name it, has a smooth, fast, and delightful experience. You'll notice that scrolling is effortless in the new Workspaces product. You'll also notice that the progress indicators, which appear whenever you execute a query, are just really, really smooth. Also, this is the beginning of a new era for us. Workspaces is very much the platform for Snowflake to innovate over the next few years. In fact, I'd like to show you all builders one of these innovations that we're tremendously excited about. Jupyter Notebooks inside Workspaces, which just hit private preview with public preview coming soon.
This is a big deal, and I can't wait to show this to folks. So I've actually got an example notebook right here.
Great.
And what I did was I went to a random repository, in this case, SciPy lectures that are delivered in notebooks. And now I'm just going to add it to my Workspace project, grab it from my desktop, and there we go. Look at that. All I have to do is connect it to my notebook service, which I've set up ahead of time. And in a couple of seconds, you'll see that I have a fully functioning notebook that is fully Jupyter compatible, right? And look at the scrolling, look how fast and smooth that is. I'm also really excited that I can run my Python and SQL, as you might imagine. All of my import statements, they just work because this is fully Jupyter compatible. And of course, I can do all of my complex data science visualizations, and I can do all of my plotting and really go deep in some of those workflows here. And that's really cool. So what's cool about the notebooks inside of Workspaces is that we're hosting the Jupyter kernel directly within the container attached to the workspace. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. And it seems to me that that's a random file you just grabbed off of GitHub. It just works.
This works.
Amazing. Amazing. For you builders out there, we hope that it feels pretty natural that any data scientist who is familiar with SageMaker or other flavors of hosted Jupyter notebooks, you should find a home right in Snowflake Notebooks. At the same time, our new Notebooks product works with all the workspace primitives like native Git integration and even sharing right out of the box. And finally, this is a great example of how building on the Workspaces platform is allowing us to move much more quickly for all you builders. One more thing. Something else I'm really proud of with Notebooks is that, once again, it's easy to explain but hard to get right. It's our connection management experience. One thing you'll have noticed is that our connections are long-lived, typically 24 hours. Of course, admins can override that. But if a connection drops for any reason, we've really rethought and dramatically improved the reconnect experience. You might not even notice that your connection has dropped. And this is just the kind of thing that makes a notebook in the cloud feel, we hope, as smooth or even smoother than that notebook that you might be running on your desktop.
I'm so excited about this, Vic, because I don't know about all of y'all at home builders, but I have definitely had those moments in my data career where I have to be on an airplane, I have to finish up a data analysis real quick, and being able to work in the cloud, but also feel like I'm working locally and not worry about my Wi-Fi connection kind of always breaking down, that's a big deal. So really kudos on making that so smooth and effortless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. Streamlit, of course, is an extremely well-known surface area inside of Snowsight. But a common area of feedback that we've heard from the community is folks want to see faster parity between the open source version and what lands inside of Snowsight. I know this has been a big focus since Summit, so what can you tell us?
Anna, well, first of all, we love our Streamlit community. And folks, builders out there, please keep all that feedback rolling in. For me personally, it's amazing to be part of such a large and vibrant open source community. It's one of the things that makes me most excited to come to work every day. Now, builders, we've heard the feedback from the community loud and clear. You've told us it's been hard to get the latest and greatest open source features into our Streamlit and Snowflake implementation, which is what we call SIS internally. I'm happy to say that we fixed that problem with the latest version of SIS, currently in private preview. It now takes less than 24 hours from the time a new open source version hits the repo to that same functionality being made available inside Snowflake.
That's cool.
It took a lot of under-the-hood engineering to get there, including moving to Snowflake's container platform, which you may have heard of as SPCS. SPCS is a great base for us to build on for many reasons. For example, each Streamlit application can now run inside its own container. This unlocks installing various PyPy packages while still maintaining that security and governance perimeter that all of you builders know and love Snowflake for.
I'm so excited. Let's take a look.
Let's do it.
All right, Streamlit in containers, let's go. So of course it's going to be in your projects interface, but I preloaded it for us in the interest of time, and immediately you can see that this looks really different. It's a different font, it's a different background, it's a totally different design language, and that's because advanced theming is enabled on this Streamlit app. How does it work? So let's take a look in our sidebar, and there's a config file that I can dig into, and I can change my background color, I can change the font weight, I can even change the font type. And there's so many more examples of how you can make all sorts of modifications on the Streamlit doc site, so make sure you check it out. One more thing I want to show you folks is what Vic was talking about with less than 24-hour availability. So instead of Streamlit here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Streamlit Nightly, which is our nightly release that comes out every day. All right, and just need to spell that correctly. When I rerun the Streamlit app, what it's going to do is it's going to reboot the whole app because I just changed the Streamlit version, and you're also going to get to see how fast this is in the container version of Streamlit. So here it goes. Ta-da! 1.51.1.dev 2025-10, yada yada. There you go. It's the latest nightly release right there. And there's just one more thing, and that is Flex layout. This is something I know you all have been asking for a while. You really want it to be able to horizontally align the elements in your applications in order to have more control over the layout, and now that's available here as well, which is really cool. So how that works is it's part of your container element, and all you have to do is set horizontal equals true, and then you can configure your horizontal alignment as you like. And look at that, so many cool and exciting changes in Streamlit. Wonderful. So Vic, we've covered a lot of ground, but before we wrap up and before I let you go, I want to do one more thing, which is a rapid fire round, and I'm going to make it just a little hard. Let's take turns to name some things that people may not yet know about Snowsight, and then I'm going to show them off here to demo to builders at home. Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds great, Anna, but you're going to have to go first.
All right, fair enough. So I want to start with DBT projects. We've talked about this a bunch today. We've talked about it a bunch at Summit. What you may not yet know is that this is now in public preview. And my personal favorite way to show this off has always been the Jaffle Shop GitHub repo. So I'm going to import that into my workspace, and let's see what happens, shall we? All right, here we go. And I'm going to go to GitHub, and it's a public GitHub repo. Of course, it's a fictional e-commerce store, and what this project basically is it gives me all of the raw materials that I need to set up a DBT project really quickly. So I'm going to load it into my workspace right here. Grab the folder on my desktop. There we go. And voila, once again, that loads really, really fast. And immediately, when I click into my DBT project, I can see that it's rendered, it's recognized, but there's one thing missing, which is a profiles.yaml. And so what this file is it's the only thing that you need in order to make this work on Snowflake. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a role, warehouse, database, and schema, basically things that DBT needs in order to be able to write. And that's it. I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to use DBT. I would probably run dbt deps next. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to run dbt compile, And you're going to get to see that right here. Now, dbt compile is a function that essentially steps through the entire DAG without actually writing to the warehouse. So it allows me to preview what my DAG looks like and also make sure that all of my code works. So there we go, it's done. And let's take a look at how that looks inside of my workspace. Voila, there's a DAG inside my workspace, and I can see how all of my different objects are related to one another. I've got my seed files and how they feed my models. I can even look at the compiled SQL that's connected to my models, and I know that that works well. I'm going to do one more thing here, which is I'm going to run dbt seed, and now what that's going to do is it's going to take my seed files, my CSVs, and it's going to load them into the data warehouse, so you can see it actually writing to my warehouse. There we go. One of the seed files is already written, so you can see it's created a table called raw customers, and in just a couple of seconds, I'm going to have the other two tables here as well. So really quick, really fast. In the last minute and a half, I was able to import a project. I just added 3 configuration options, and with that, I was ready to go and use dbt on Snowflake. That is really cool. And of course, don't forget that after this, there's going to be a full 30 minutes on productionizing dbt projects in Snowflake, so make sure you stick around for that. All right, your turn, Vic.
Okay, thanks, Anna. As you remember, I mentioned earlier that we've been reimagining Snowsight from the ground up. One of those ground up reimaginations is what we call metadata fetch. Metadata fetch is a fundamental rethink of how data that lives in the Snowflake warehouse is now made available to the UI.
That sounds really intriguing. What does that mean?
Well, Anna, the first thing you're going to notice is that it's super, super fast to run your show command. So now, when you do something like the show warehouses command, it just takes a matter of seconds. Before, especially if you had a large number of warehouses, that could take a long time. Metadata fetch backs a lot of the other things across Snowsight, like the database picker and object explorer, to make those experiences faster too.
I think I know a way to demo this, so let's show builders what this looks like.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to set up 2 accounts. One that doesn't have metadata fetch, and you can see that when I click on the database picker, it just kind of spins, and that's because I've got over 1,000 databases here, which is pretty classic for a lot of our enterprise customers. All right, so compare that with an account that has metadata fetch enabled. I'm going to do the same database picker, and voila, look at that, instant. It's amazing.
As amazing. And builders, metadata fetch is coming to your account very soon as part of a regular performance update.
That's right. You don't have to ask for permission. It's just going to roll right into your account real soon.
That's right. Anna, do you think we have time for one more?
Just one more, I think.
Okay, close us out.
All right, if you insist. So last, but very much not least, I want to show off Horizon Catalog inside Snowsight. And in particular, I want to show you its deep integration with Cortex Code, which we showed you a little bit ago. Horizon is, of course, both a user-facing catalog as well as infrastructure for managing metadata under the hood. All right, so I'm going to pull up a demo here to show you exactly what I mean. Now, what I love about Horizon is how deeply integrated it is into Snowsight, right? It's in my workspaces, and inside of worksheets, it's inside of notebooks. My data is always there and explorable. But also, I can now use Cortex Code to explore and ask questions of that data. So maybe I want to know more about personally identifiable information. And I'm just going to give it some constraints here, like the last 7 days, and ask it to give me some recommendations. So again, the agent is able to tell me how it's thinking and the next steps that it's planning. So let's take a look. Looks fine. It's understood my question properly. It understood that this is part of the Horizon tool, which it handles seamlessly. This time, it has access to everything it needs. So it's just going to go ahead and do its thing. And in a couple of seconds, it's going to give me my answer and my top 5 most commonly queried tables. There we go. Here's the result. And immediately, this is really interesting because I can already play with this. I can look at it as a diagram or a table. And when I scroll down, I have a bunch of really interesting key findings. Like, turns out only 2 of those 5 tables are really very risky, right? And most of them, they have most of the queries going to those 2 tables alone. Also, I've got some suggestions here, like maybe I should implement column level security and move some of this data around to make sure it's less accessible. And finally, it's even offering to implement these security measures for me or do some additional analysis. And I mean, that's just really cool.
It is. It's super cool. One thing, Anna, I just got to say, Horizon Catalog gets better every day, and I'm so excited that it's a critical part of Snowsight. We think it's going to be a critical feature long-term for admins and developers alike.
I completely agree, Vic. Today has been incredible. What a whirlwind tour of all things Snowsight. But before you go, there's one more thing, which is, remember, there's a URL dropping right now, which has everything that we demoed. It has all of the code. It has links to all of the docs. And if you're interested in any of the private preview features that we mentioned, please reach out to your account execs, and we'd love to have you demo them. Vic, it was a true pleasure to have you here today. This was so much fun, and I really enjoyed looking under the hood of Snowsight with you.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Thanks for having me. And builders, have a great Build conference.
Thank you, builders. Have a wonderful day.